Signs. The universe is constantly sending us signs. They might be a word from a perfect stranger, a dream, a thought that wakes us up in the middle of the night, or our own intuition, that gut feel that we have that tells us to stay the course and lets us know this is not the end. Let's talk about this today. My name's Frank Zaccari. This is Life-Altering Events, Near-Death Experiences. My guest today is Suzanne Jones. Now, Suzanne is a woman who has experienced enough trauma in her life to make her very skeptical and very cynical about life, yet she still remains open to listening and looking for the signs. Let me tell you something about Suzanne. She's helping high-achieving women reconnect with their real selves so that they have a peaceful mind and attract the perfect clients, and actually enjoy their success. Now, how novel is that? You want to enjoy your success. Suzanne, welcome to Life-Altering Events.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. When you and I spoke, Suzanne, your story just intrigued me. You had a very turbulent childhood. Tell us what happened, or as much as you're comfortable with.
That could take up the entire episode. So, to put it in a nutshell, a lot of emotional and more emotional than physical, but there was physical abuse. But I was adopted at 3 months old, and by 15, they gave me back. So if that doesn't pretty much sum it up, you can imagine what must have happened in the meantime. As I say, to go on and on, if there's anything specific you want me to talk about, otherwise this would take up the whole episode.
Right. So tell us, you're 15 years old, the only family in life you knew up to that point.
Horrifying.
Yes, go into that. What was that like for a 15-year-old girl, young woman?
You know, I'm going to be honest, some of it, I think I've blocked out, and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and I have the ability, and I know the people to bring it back. But you know what? I don't know if I want to go there just yet. I'm comfortable with my growth, but it was, you know how everybody fears, they live through life fearing the rug being pulled out from underneath them.
Yes.
Well, the rug was, and I fell really hard. So here I am, and my social worker is taking me to another city, and I get dropped off at this, oh my gosh, I lost the word. It's like it's a group home for juveniles. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm looking around and I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? Like, first of all, the dialogue in my head is, okay, because adopted people do this. My birth mother didn't want me. The people that wanted me or said they wanted me, now they don't want me. There must be something terribly wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was my dialogue for a better part of 30 years.
Wow.
You know, so I'm in this home and I'm looking at all these delinquents and I'm like, I'm not a bad person. Why am I here? Anyway, from there, I went from foster home to foster home to foster home, and none of them wanted me either.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I just wasn't a bad kid. I didn't I wasn't explosive. I didn't have like juvenile delinquent behaviors. I don't know. I still don't know. And finally, they found one that I melded with very well. And I will say, because of this foster family, and there was another gal, so it was a woman and a man, and their daughter. She was more of a juvenile delinquent than me or Susie. And there was another gal who was in my situation, and I'm often called Susie, and she was also Susie. And then, so we went to school, we went to a new school and all that, made new friends, and we had friends over. And I'll tell you, it was actually a very good experience for me because I did feel wanted there. I did feel loved. And me and Susie did create drama together. So this was when I became a little bit of a delinquent, not really bad. But they were so loving and patient. And yeah, that's when I started to see what life should have been.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. The single, as I've been told by psychologists, the single greatest thing a child needs is stability and love and a sense of being needed and wanted.
Oh yeah, I didn't get that.
And that was taken away. That was terrible.
I remember laying in, talk about torture. In my bedroom, there was, I don't know what, those white grates that are on it's intake and outtake of air, I guess.
Yes.
I used to lay on my floor and it used to look into the kitchen, like the hallway and then the kitchen. And I used to, my Nana and my grandma and grandpa, Nana and grandpa had an ensuite in the basement, a big place of their own in the basement. And he passed away when I was very young. And that's when my world really crashed because he was the only one I felt that was there to protect me. And funny enough, I realized as an adult, the story I told myself then was I'm all alone in this world. This is years before, probably 8 years before I got sent away.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember thinking, I'm all alone in the world. There's nobody left to protect me. I have to protect myself from here on in. And then life would prove that to be true.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to lay on the floor and listen to my Nana talking to whoever was in the kitchen that would listen, what a useless waste of skin I am, and and so yeah. And it's funny that particular memory has been coming up for me lately. So, but yeah, it was pretty brutal.
It's terrible. What a terrible way to go, treat a child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we spoke, you mentioned that during all these challenging times, your dad was sort of secretly keeping an eye on you. Is that right? Tell us some of those stories.
Well, okay. So while I was there in another city in foster care, I got woken up really, really early. I believe it was a Sunday morning to be told that my brother was just killed the night before in a car crash. So I went back home to, the arrangements, the funeral and everything. And it wasn't until that point that they asked me to come back home. So, I mean, I could speculate a lot of things. Would it have happened if he hadn't have passed away? I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point, but I said no, because to be honest, I was having the time of my life where I was. And I eventually did go back home, and a couple months later got kicked out again. So what I found really funny, looking back, because at the time I'm like, oh, you're just a busybody. In my mind, I never said it out loud, but he's a busybody. He just can't leave me to live my own life. But my dad was a police officer, and he was secretly checking up on me. Again, me thinking it was just leave me alone. Okay. Just leave me alone already. Just, I can't do anything without being like spied on. But Christmas would come and I get a new set of tires because he'd been spying on me. He realized that I was driving on bologna skins. So, like things like that. It's really kind of fun to look back on and realize the actual intent. Mm-hmm. And not that. And I used to see him wherever, he knew where all my friends were. And I used to see him, driving by and trying to be nonchalant. But when you're in a cruiser, you're not so.
Yes. And you're around teens, they always spot the cruiser. Yeah. So as you're growing up, so you had this interesting relationship with your father. And then you grow up and we move away as life happens. And you didn't see him for a couple of years. You kept planning to get together, but things kept happening. What kept happening?
Just life, like he started going, so he ended up getting remarried, and he started going to he married an American. I'm Canadian. He
Mm-hmm.
married an American, and they started doing 6 months in his city in Ontario and 6 months in Florida. And so I think she had family there, and they every year he would say, "Okay, we're coming down this year, and we're going to do this," and something would come up. They got invited to a wedding, or right at the same time, because because he was going to drive down, not fly, so that's
Mm-hmm.
quite a journey that has to be planned, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And this went on for, I'm not exactly sure, but quite a few years, where like he had been down before, because I'm across, so I'm for the United States people listening, I would be Montana and he was in Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's the space that we're at, right? So California and Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so it was either a wedding or some, random family would pop down, and he just couldn't make it.
So you're going with these typical life things happening.
Yeah.
And then in 2006, when we spoke, you said both of you decided enough is enough. And that we're making plans and we're going to go visit each other. Tell us about these trips.
It actually started with him. He said, "I'm coming this year for sure. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go buy my tickets to," he had a bucket list. "I want to go to the Stampede, the Calgary Stampede. I want to see the barrel racing. I want to do this and this and this. Go buy my tickets." So that made it like solid, right?
Right.
He was coming. And it was actually kind of funny because he's saying, "I want to go here and I want to see this and I want to see that." And I'm like, "I don't even know what you're talking about." And the one place he wanted to see was a Raymond Carriage House, I think it's called, literally down the road from me. And
Mm-hmm.
I never knew anything about it. So he comes here and he's educating me about what's in my own backyard. But he did that. And then I thought, ooh, so he's going to come in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, ooh, I'd love to surprise my kids with a trip to Florida to see him. So we did. So my dad and I planned it. And my kids ended up at the kind of figuring it out because of the way I had to execute it.
Right.
But we went there first, and we got to celebrate my dad's birthday and my daughter's birthday, which is 2 weeks apart, together. And then they came down here in June.
Mm-hmm.
I think they say June, July, August, and then they stay till the first part of September or something. So about 4 months.
Wow.
So we were there in Florida we went to Disney World, and it was actually funny. Can I share the story about Disney?
Sure.
So Dad loved Disney, and I didn't realize how much until we were there. So he took us to Disney, and he let us have days on our own as well. But he took us to Disney, and we did the whole park. And it comes near the end, and the kids and I are talking, thinking, well, maybe we should, tell Grandpa if he wants to get going, we can go, because it's night, getting dark. And the kid said, "Hey, Grandpa, if you're ready to go, we can go." And Grandpa, he snaps back and he says, "Oh, we're not going anywhere till the GD fireworks are over. I'm here for the fireworks." And the kids are like, whoa. So he wasn't an old man. Like, he was very energetic and, let's go. But that's when I realized how much he loves this environment, this kind of entertainment. I think
Mm-hmm.
it was really bringing his kid back, just like it does for everybody.
That's incredible. So you have this wonderful home and home reunion. So things are connecting again.
Oh, yeah.
You go home. Your dad returns home. I'm sorry. And then you get this phone call in early January. What was that call?
Well, Dad had a massive stroke. And I can remember the exact date and the exact time because of exactly what I was doing. I happened to be changing positions at my job that exact day.
Mhm.
He had a massive stroke.
So you have to race home,
Yes.
obviously. You walk in after this great reunion and rebonding again, and you see your dad in a coma. And I'm imagining he is attached to every device in the world.
Yes, he was.
What did the doctors tell you, and what was your first emotion when they told you?
He wasn't supposed to make it. It's almost impossible for him to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And here's all the reasons why, right? Like listing all the reasons why. And I've lost sense of the time frame for every little thing that happened. But seeing my dad, the first looking at my dad, it'd probably be like everybody else, like shock and awe and doom and gloom, and you want to believe the doctor
Correct.
because right, I'm coming again for across Canada, and I'm, of course, my last memory, we just spent damn near the whole year together, not really, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of time. And my first, I don't want to say instinct, my first thought was like, this is really bad. This is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to believe the doctor. I didn't want to believe them, but what other choice did I have? They're telling me this, and I can see with my eyes what they're telling me must be true. And as time went on, he wasn't improving, but my thinking was changing about it. I couldn't explain it. And when I did, I kind of got laughed at, but I literally felt like this is not the end. And it is the hardest thing to explain. And when I had that thought, all of a sudden, things around me started showing me that I might be onto something.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality says, this is a situation. I mean, look at him. But when I had this ease about me, that this is not the end, there was nothing visual or medical or anything to tell me otherwise, but something inside just kept saying this is not the end. And then there was a time, again in this time frame, when I started feeling like this. I was at the gift store and looking at trinkets, just trying, because I was there for a lot of hours a day, and I just to stretch my legs and stuff. And I picked up this gift, and underneath it said, "Expect a miracle." Whoa. The reason it resonated is because I already had this miraculous feeling, this feeling of a miracle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then again, I've lost sense of time. So it didn't all happen in one day, but it was spread out through a week. Another time I went outside for some fresh air, stretched my legs. And this fella said, "Can I come and stand with you?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And he starts talking about, he was supposed to die 5 years ago. And he went on this whole story, and I was like, whoa, another miracle. And then, believe it or not, another gal, she comes up and joins the two of us. And she says, well, I think the reason she said it was because he was just finishing his story about his supposed death.
Mm-hmm.
She says, well, funny enough, I was supposed to die a year ago. And I'm like, whoa. Like my mind is literally going, it's firing off right now thinking, wow. And she said, and not that this is really relevant, but she said, well, I figured if I'm going to die, then I'm going off all my meds. She went off all her meds. A year later, she's alive and she's got a clean bill of health.
Wow. So the universe is sending you all these signs, reinforcing what you think you believed. right? So you go back to the hospital and they're continuing this. Look, Suzanne, these are the facts.
Yep.
There are no survivor markers. You need to make a decision. We have to take him off support or not. What happened?
Well, let me just back up a second. And I was going in with positiveness.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the best word,
But I understand.
And I started to kind of change my tune about his care because I didn't feel like this was the end. It was so bad that, and they were very kind. Nobody literally talked down to me, but the doctor ended up taking me into the little office outside of the ICU, pulled up Dad's scans, put them all on the thing, and showed me all the damaged spots. Like, to drive the point home, how it's relatively impossible for him to come out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I did slip for a few minutes going, but this feeling I have, it can't be if he's showing me that, but it didn't go away. And then again, later, the place I was staying at, I walked in after spending a day with Dad, and there was Naomi Judd on Larry King Live talking about her, if I remember correctly, it was her miraculous cure from cancer, or healing from cancer, I believe it was. And that was it. I was like, no, this is not my imagination now. This is for real. So from that point on, yes, I'm starting to plan I have to go back home. I have got kids here and I've got to go back to work. And there really isn't much I can do anyway. So the nurse, when I went in that one day, the last day, that stroke nurse is giving me the what for, and this is the way it is, and I've been doing this a long time, and if they don't show these markers by X amount of days, this has to happen by this day, in order for this to be the end result, and blah blah blah. And now I'm torn again because I'm going home, and I have life causing, life altering, both
Exactly.
decisions to make. And I am I know what I want to do, but I actually was in denial when my mom died.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've got to be really clear. Am I in denial, or are these signs true? There's a lot of inner turmoil that goes on when you got decisions like this to make. And when you're told your whole life that feeling inside, it's not true. What you see is true. So now, so I didn't want to agree to anything because of my strongest beliefs that this was not the end. I don't know. I can't explain it, but this isn't the end for him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's bantering back and forth with me, and I'm saying, I just don't feel it. I don't, but here's the statistics, and here's the way it is. And again, she wasn't pressuring me. She was simply giving me the facts.
Correct.
We get into the elevator, still talking, get off the elevator. Again, I know what I want to do, but now I'm getting confused with all the facts.
Mm-hmm.
We get to the doorway of my dad's room, and my son is there, has no idea of this conversation that's happening with me and this stroke nurse. My son, now my dad, by the way, my dad is now out of ICU and into another room. So some of the machines are no longer attached to him, but some are, including a feeding tube. My son turns around when he sees us at the door, and he says, "Mom, Grandpa just did this, and he just did that." And I don't remember what this and that was, but it was exactly what she just said to me was a milestone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, boom, decision made. I'm not doing anything. So it was just like, wow.
Wow. With all those signs, near-death experience that your dad is going through, and messages are being sent to you who has to make the decision. And you were, even through all the trauma you've lived through, you were receptive to these signs that were coming in. So now you have to go home, right? So you go back home, and then you get another phone call about something your dad did. What was that?
They phoned me when I was on the plane. So when I got off the plane, because of course now the cell phone is attached to my hip from this point on, I listened to the message, and the message said, your dad is improving. And by the way, he pulled out his own feeding tube. I was like, boom, he's back.
A classic stubborn World War II mindset. Right?
Yeah. Oh, I was like, wow, this is crazy.
All those signs would have been justified for you. So your dad has to go live in a nursing home because he can't live alone anymore. And then we all hear these comments. So anyone who's been through this, well, what about a quality of his life? Or maybe it would have been better if you let him pass. Look how he has to live. Now, your dad didn't quite feel that way. Tell us what it was like for him at that point.
I believe it was quite a transition at first because he was very independent, but many parts of his brain had been damaged, and I'm not really sure what parts. Right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So he, in looking back, he just had a knack of making the best of whatever situation he had. So he was paralyzed. Half of his body was paralyzed. He was cognitively impaired, and he couldn't speak. He had to learn through pointing, and he just couldn't talk. The only thing, if I can say it, the only thing he could say very clearly was bullshit. That was his favorite word. Bullshit. And so he became a prankster. He was a diabetic, so they had to poke him multiple times a day, give him a needle, and he would be in his wheelchair, and he'd be pretending. He knew the times that they were, and he always wore a watch, so he knew the times that they would come in to poke him. So quite often, actually, he would pretend that he was sleeping, and then they would come and go, Norm, and then they'd get the needle out and start and be ready to poke him, and he would just be like, and and scare him. And so this became his thing. So they couldn't trust him anymore because they didn't know when he was going to do it to them, and so all of those kind of little practical jokes, and so he made the best of it. He really did.
It's incredible. You told me a story. Your dad was a police officer, and at one point you had a friend who had an episode with marijuana, and your dad looked the other way or gave him or didn't charge her, right?
Yeah.
So now he's in this hospital, in this home, and who comes in?
Her. When this happened, we rode the bus to school. She's actually 2 years ahead of me. She's my brother's age. She said to me, Suzanne, oh my God, I am so thankful for your dad. I am so thankful for your dad. He busted me last night with a bag of weed. He dumped it out in front of me, promised me, like I said, he wouldn't tell my mom, my parents, and he let me go. And of course, don't ever let it happen again.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you have no idea how grateful I am. And there must have been a backstory, like maybe this would be the last time and she'd get kicked out. I don't know. All these years later, she's the one looking after my dad.
That's incredible. Isn't it? That's such an amazing story.
Isn't that incredible? I was like, wow.
His kindness and his judgment way back when she was young was justified, and now she's helping him down in his final journey. That's incredible. What a story.
I know.
Now, Suzanne, your dad did pass in December 2020. And one of the things you told me, he often said, everything's a decision. Basically, there are no random acts. Everything is a decision. Put into perspective the importance of the decisions that you made back in 2006 to get together again.
Can you ask me that another way? I don't know that I.
Sure. The getting together, again, there's no random act.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Getting together, that decision to get together changed everything, correct?
Yes. Yeah. That's the curious thing. That's a very curious thing. I don't know about your listeners, but I am very much into the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how that plays into what happened and why, like, what I'm trying to say. There's a belief about destiny and your life is already rewritten. And
Yes.
then there's a belief that it isn't. And so I'm a little baffled there in, was this supposed to happen? And if it was, then it makes sense to me that I would get the intuition or the inspiration to go, oh, let's just go to Florida and see Grandpa. I mean, of course we didn't know it would be the last time we would spend together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Is this answering your question?
Yeah, it is. It is. It basically, something drew you together in 2006 because you both, it has to happen.
Yeah.
The relationship gets reconnected and you get to share 13, probably the best years of your life with him.
Yeah, we had so much fun. We really did. And get the reconnection and I mean, I was cooking all my dad's favorite meals for him and I made me feel great because I love doing that. It was really good. So yeah, what is the answer? Is there an answer? Is there, is our life destined? I don't know.
That's
But
very
it's
interesting.
So curious.
Because Mark O'Brien, who we both know, talks about the no random acts. That's one of his standard lines.
Exactly.
Nothing was random there. It was happened for a reason.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, oh, gee, out of the blue. And your dad had a bucket list and he was able to, but he didn't know this was going to be it.
Right.
He completed that bucket list. You went down and saw him. All those traumas from the early life, they never get set aside completely, but your relationship was reinforced again, and there was a love there that I can see as talking, and that feeling of need and being needed. That is wonderful. Wow, this is an incredible story. Now, Suzanne, we're just about out of time here, so what last words would you like to leave with the viewers around the world? What last points do you want to make?
This story is just as intriguing to me as I hope it is for others. And there's just so many nuances. And life in itself is not black and white. I would suggest a couple things. One, look for the nuances, look for the distinctions. And two, intuition. Man, oh man, oh man. We know stuff that we can't describe, and stop trying to describe it to people. If you know what you know, go with it. You don't need believers. The only one you need to believe in is yourself.
Exactly.
We know what we know. And as I explained, I got shot down quite a few times. Even people around me that weren't in the medical profession were saying, oh, I don't know, just not looking so good. Because I'm saying, oh, but I have this hope and I have this, oh, don't get your hopes up, don't. But there's something in there. Follow that something in there.
Exactly. Exactly. We had one guest on, and she said, you die when it's your time. And you know it's your time, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't his time. It wasn't the end. And you were given signs, the universe, the near death, whatever you want to call it, were giving you signs to reinforce that intuition you had.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to follow. Believe in yourself, and the signs will come and the doors will open.
100%. You got to be open to the signs as well. And that's, kind of where some of the nuances, you've got to be open and not just dismiss what's right. Like, you know what I mean? The
Yes.
signs come and some people don't see them.
Exactly. Exactly. You have to be open and willing when they arrive. Well, I absolutely love this story, ladies and gentlemen. This we're just about out of time. I want to thank Suzanne again. This is just an incredible story. Follow the signs. When you believe it's not the end, it's not the end. Believe it. Go forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what life throws your way, and as you just heard from Suzanne, there's going to be a lot of stuff thrown in front of you. Please do 3 things. Look up, get up, and never, ever give up. Pick up the pieces, you start moving forward, and better times and better people will come into your life. If you want more information about Suzanne, you can contact me or go to her website. You can contact me directly, and I will make sure the information gets to her. You can see this on ROKU TV or on my YouTube page, Frank Zaccari. And I will also send links to Suzanne, so she'll post it to all the places that she posts her information around the world. If you use the YouTube, please subscribe. Now, let me leave you with this, ladies and gentlemen. None of us are in this alone. And the secret to walking on water is to know where the rocks are. And today, Suzanne showed us where many, many of those rocks are. Join us again next week. We look into another life-altering event. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.